Good afternoon. Happy Savage Saturday, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here. And today, guys, we're here with Savage Saturday Comic Review, episode 149. We're almost to that 150 mark, which is just a milestone. It'll just be me telling you another story. Hopefully a tale that won't get lost in time, because you know how I like to keep these old stories alive. Today's no different. We're going to tell you a story from Roy Thomas with art by Obi Hanju, and it's a backup feature in the Savage Sword of Conan issue 204. And we have cover art here by Alan Rabinowitz. So there you go. Nice little cover there. And we are going to switch to the back. And we're going to have it up here. You guys will see the panels as I'm reading them to you. And we start with our opening shot of the city behind its walls. And it says, 100 leagues north of the Zaporozhye River, the city-state called Korbo lies like a sleeping lion at the foot of the Himalayan mountains. If one would travel the so-called Silken Road between the Secunderam and western Kitai, one could scarcely avoid it. Some, however, would deny the avaricious Lord of Korbo the gold he demands for the privilege of merely passing through. These stalwart souls have their own agenda, considering it less blessed to give than to receive. And we see a hook coming over the wall. We see Conan climbing up the other side and then settling down, almost a superhero landing on the grass below, and then he's making his way towards a specific home. And you see him going up some steps, and then he's whispering at a doorway, "Orma, it's Conan, Orma, open the door." And then, not whispering, "By Crom, don't you hear me, woman? I said, open the door." And he shoulders the door. So here we go. There's that page for you guys to look at. This is a fun little tale. It's one I really enjoy. And then we get to the main title page, which says Murderer's Grog, written by Roy Thomas, Obi Hanju artist, David Sharp letters, freely adapted from the story by Robert E. Howard. And then you see Conan burst through a door. There's a woman in there and her attendant. And she goes, "Oh, it's you, is it?" And she's laying down on some fine silks. And it says, this tale occurs some months before the story, The People of the Black Circle, for those of you who are curious. The next page has Conan addressing her, and he's like, "Didn't I say I'd be here? Tell your servant to get out." And the woman, Orma, says, "You may go, Tashi." And Tashi says, "Yes, mistress." And she asks Conan, "Would you like some kressel and wine?" And Conan says, "I have no time for drink tonight." And Orma says, "That is unusual, but I did hear something about a brash outlander who refused to pay the requisite bribe to the city lord." And Conan says, "Pavlitar can go to the devil." Pavlitar is the guy's name, the city lord. And Orma replies to him, "The word is, if you're found inside the walls at dawn, you forfeit your head." And Conan is just staring out and he says, "And where am I supposed to go? Tehran or Iranistan, where I have enemies by the score? No, I need a seal of safe conduct from the war chief Babur, one that will identify me to the Afghuli hill tribes." And to which Orma says, "I suppose those outlaws would fill you with arrows the moment they saw your outlander hide." And he replies, "But I'm betting I could rise quickly in the ranks if I live past that first encounter." And Conan's just punching the wall. He says, "But where is the barber's emissary anyway? He swore he'd get me Barber's seal, then didn't show up at the agreed time." And Orma says, "The hillmen are known to want swords of Akbatan and steel so superior to the local variety. I smell a scheme involving money. Could it be you can supply them and have offered to split the profits with Babur in exchange for his protection?" And to which Conan replies, "You're a smart one. The swords I bartered for in Secunderam are buried outside the walls. But they'll rust there if I don't get that seal. But I came here to forget my troubles. Yesterday you invited me here, yet tonight..." We'll show you those two pages. And Conan's finding that she isn't quite the inviting lass that she was the night before. So as our tale continues, You see her starting to yell at Conan. She goes, I want you out of here, Cimmerian. As the only Nemedian woman in Corble, I can't afford to be seen with a man who's angered Pavditar. And Conan's like, that's a lie. Everyone in the city knows of your boast. You don't give a rat's tail what the city lord thinks. It's something else, some other man perhaps. And she goes, and what if it is? And she throws something at him. She goes, when I saw you yesterday in the bazaar, I was attracted, as I might be to a stallion or a prize bull. But since then, I've met a real man, the only one I ever truly wanted. So get out of here now. Conan closes the space between them and grabs her arms. And she goes, before I have you thrown out, let go of me. He goes, I've never forced myself on a woman, so I'll leave if that's what you want. He goes, you don't really need to choose between two lovers, you know. I'll be gone in an hour, leaving you the rest of the night to compare us. And she goes, when I say no, I mean no. And then Conan's hit on the shoulder from behind by one of her private silent guards. And Conan turns around, grabs him and says, that stung, dog. Sicken your slave on me. As for the bludgeon, Crom cursed me for a fat-headed fool. And now he's in the middle of all her servants who are attacking him. She goes, I should have grabbed it faster. Might have known she'd have more than one tongueless slave lurking about. So you can already get the hint that she's not really a good woman. She keeps her word isn't worth anything. She keeps slaves. None of these things Conan likes in a person. So as we're finding out more and more that she's just despicable, our story continues. You know, Conan got cut up. She was pretty. He thought he had to deal with someone inside to deal swords with. And now they all have a hold of Conan, and she's yelling, get rid of him. And Conan's yelling at her, you'll pay for this treachery, woman. And she goes, with Orma of Hanamar, barbarian, it's always the man who pays. And they toss him out the window. He goes, a woman's mocking laughter follows him down into the courtyard, where he is nearly impaled upon a gargoyle-topped fountain. And you hear, oof, as he hits the ground. Conan would thank Crom if he felt like thanking anyone for the soft ground. Still, he has a bruise or two, which will remind him of the debt he owes the only Nemedian woman in Corval. And he's a man who honors his debts. And he's rubbing his head, and he hears a behind him. And he goes, huh? And as he turns, you see Conan say, Murzak, how did you know I was here? He goes, I saw you speak with a Nemedian yesterday and took a chance. And Conan says, if you kept your appointment, you wouldn't have had to come looking for me. What is the seal of safe conduct you promised me? And Murzak answers, I promise only to speak with the barber about it. Alas, he can do nothing. He can have nothing to do with your scheme. And Conan says, why the devil not? And Murzak replies, despite his power among the Afghuli, fear of the angering the Corbalans, or even the Vendayans, if any of the swords here are used in the raids to the east. In fact, he demands that you leave the city at once, lest you compromise him. So he's scared that people know about these swords, where he got them from, and that they're going to compromise his treaties with these people. And Conan is like, Korbula holds no further charms for me. And Murzak says, I'm sorry, my friend. And it says, in the descriptive text, as Conan stalks off with neither farewell nor backward glance, he would be surprised to see Murzak smile enigmatically and stride with springing step into the very courtyard he had just vacated. But then, if Conan did turn around, he'd be more likely to see the robed figure that had arrived with Murzak, and which has been skulking in the shadows ever since Conan himself entered the house of Orma. All right, so the plot's thickening here. So Murzak's up to something. He lied to Conan about being able to get him this seal. He's got someone stalking Conan, and better lies both from Murzak and from Orma. And it says, while above, as we turn the page, and you see Murzak coming up to Orma. He's like, I'm sorry I'm late, but I encountered the barbarian Ulf outside. And she says, never mind, Murzak. You are here now, the one man I ever wanted to possess me. And have you done as I asked? And he's like, yes, my love, I promise you. The dolt will be done with before middle night. And they're talking about getting someone murdered, and they want to trick Conan into doing it. So we go to Conan entering a bar, and you get a great shot here you got the cloaked figure coming in behind Conan, and you got a bar just full of partiers going on. So it says Conan, momentarily disgusted with the way of the world, has meanwhile sought out a noisy, smoke-stained tavern, and his robed shadow has trailed after him. The Cimmerian means to have a flagon or two, or three, for the road, before departing from the troublesome city, hopefully forever. And you see Conan in the middle yell out, "Barkeep, send a stiff drink, your choice, over to wherever I light." And the barkeep answers, "That I will, Outlander." As we go to the next page, you see the hooded figure approach the barkeep. It says, as the sullen Cimmerian stomps off to find a quiet corner, even if he has to dislodge another celebrant from it. And all of a sudden you see these two in conversation. The hooded figure says, "Do you see these coins, barkeep?" And the barkeep goes, "Is that gold? I can't make change for it." And the hooded figure interrupts him. "One of them is yours, if you'll but mix a bit of liquid into that surly foreigner's drink." And the barkeep says, "For a gold coin that size, I'd grind my mother's bones up in wine and claim it was merely aged." And the hooded figure says, "Good, it is distilled from the Silver Lotus." And the barkeep says, "The silver? But they call such drinks murderer's grog. He'll go mad and pick a fight and wreck my tavern." And to which this guy, the hooded figure, replies, "Nay, the silver merely makes a man remember old grudges. He'll seek out a stable hand he quarreled with and bother you no more." And the barkeep says, "Well, I don't." And then Conan's yelling from across the bar, "Barkeep, must I come break a flask over your head?" And the barkeep goes, "A stable man, you say?" to the hooded figure. He goes, "I'm pouring your drink right now, Outlander," as he's adding the potion in, the mixture, not the potion. And the barkeep says, "On the house, because I'm slow as a one-legged tortoise tonight." And Conan's like, "Free, did you say?" And as he quaffs the ale down, he goes, "That's the first good thing that's happened to me in this God's forsaken city." And then we have the descriptive text below as Conan's guzzling his ale, and it says, "The rare petals of the Silver Lotus, ground up and diluted in a liquid, will drive most men into a killing frenzy in the space of 5 seconds." So there we go. Now as we turn the page, it says, in Conan's powerful frame, it takes nearly a minute and a refill. At last, the aptly named murderer's grog begins churning in his brain in earnest, filling it with a crimson vision. And you see Conan clenched fists, just holding the flagon, and he goes up to the barkeep. His eyes suddenly red as coals of fire, burning in those of the fidgeting barkeep. And the barkeep is choosing his words carefully. He says, "Don't you feel like going somewhere, barbarian?" And Conan's like, "Go somewhere?" And he's kind of struggling to think a little under the effects of the lotus. And the barkeep says, "Hey, perhaps seek out those you hold a grudge against." And Conan says, "Now that you speak of it, there is someone." And the barkeep says, "There you go. Or you do have to go, don't you? Out of this tavern, I mean, to find them." And Conan's like, "Yes," and he leaves the tavern. And then you see the hooded figure behind, the cloaked guy, throw the barkeep his gold coin. And he's whispering to himself, "And by tomorrow, the city lord will be dead." So now you're seeing the plot come together. Conan's being set up with the Lotus to kill the city lord. That way, the other people in the region, Omar and Murzak and this hooded figure, can take over. So as we get to our next panel, and Conan is outside the bar, it says, "But Murzak and his hooded minion have made an erroneous assumption. For it is not toward Pavdi Tars, as they intended, that the brawny barbarian strides, but toward the mansion of Orma of Hanubar. Because craft is part of the madness of the Silver Lotus, he makes for a back door." And Conan knocks on it. "Open up!" And one of her slaves opens it and has a knife. Says, the scowly, menacing form washed by light from within says nothing, because his tongue was burned years ago in a ritual ceremony. He would never speak again in any event. As Conan plunges a dagger into the guy's side and murders him, and then enters the mansion. And it says, Conan soon learns that's what sort of house the Nemedian witch runs. And you just see basically like a whorehouse with a bunch of women attending men. And we're seeing a little bit more and more of the machinations of Orma, and that she's kind of the main player here, setting everybody up to go against each other. for her own personal gain. As we turn the page, it says, he hopes they are enjoying themselves, but this is the only door into the chamber, and he locks it behind them, sealing them in. He has business upstairs. And as he approaches the door, he can hear talking inside. And it says, hey, that muscular lout will get quite a surprise if he escapes after killing Pavditar. And Conan's like, Murzak. He recognizes the voice. He goes, even in his lotus-possessed state, Conan knows there is something amiss about Murzak being in Orma's room. And Orma's inside, we now have a shot inside Orma's chamber. And she's speaking to Murzak. And she says, how can he know our spies found all those swords he hid? And, kind of making fun of Conan. And Murzak's like, what need that I had to give him Barbara's seal of conduct? And they're just having a good laugh at Conan. He goes, Barbara will assume someone killed him to avenge the city lord your man sent him to murder. Besides, what care we what my former war chief thinks, eh? We'll soon have our own army equipped with matchless Akbatan and steel. And it says, men, and Murzak's still speaking there, he goes, men will rush to our standard, and after taking the city, we'll carve an empire out of the western Himalayas. And Orma says, should we not leave the city now, beloved? Someone else might find them, and then where would we be? So the plot is thickening. Orma and Murzak want to take over. They've set Conan up, so they think, to kill this Pavditar city lord, but he's not the last one that he was angered at. It was them, and they have royally messed up. All of a sudden, you see the door burst open, and Conan's screaming, you'll both be burning in the pits of Arla. And Arla is hell in Hyboria. And Murzak says, Sumerian? And Orma is throwing her arms up. She goes, that door was strengthened when they repaired it. Yet he splintered it again. And Conan says, then think what I'll do to you after I deal with your protector. And Murzak says, in Taram's name, spare me. It was her idea to steal your swords. I wanted to bargain with you for them. And she's running away saying, help, someone help us. So you're already seeing that. Murzak's a weasel. She's a double crosser. And Conan is standing over Murzak. Murzak's begging. He's like, please, please. It was she who reported you to Pavditar. She suspected you'd not offer him a bribe and thus earn his wrath. And Conan said, what about my cache of swords? And Murzak's like, they're still where you left them, I swear it. She talked me into having you serve murderer's grog, and into lying to you about the seal. It was her, I tell you. As Conan picks him up, the very seal that Conan was looking for this guy falls out of him. And Conan says, the only man lower, the one who hides behind women, dog. And Murzak's like, oh Erlich, screaming to his gods. And Conan's like, is one who'd throw them to the wolves to gain a few more moments of life. And Conan tosses him down some stone steps. He goes, but since you've kindly turned over your barber's seal at last. We see that there as the story's coming to a head. It says, you may be on your way. And this is when Conan throws him down the stone steps. It says, the hard stone steps break Murzak's fall and his body. And Conan's looking at Orma now. He goes, what will Pavditar say when he learns you tried to send a madman to kill him? Only it turned out the madman hated you more. And to this, all of a sudden she's trying to seduce Conan. And she's like, do not believe all those lies that fool Murzak told you. Surely we can strike a bargain. And Conan says, I have my cache of swords, woman. What can you offer? And she goes, only this. And she leans in to kiss him. And she's pressing herself against his body. She goes, we will forge an army, Conan. You'll be king and I shall be your queen. What think you of that idea, my love? He goes, in truth, I was thinking, remember, that I came here to kill you with my bare hands. And she's like, no, you would not. And Conan says, no, I would not. Not that the effect of that poison your man slipped me has worn off. He says, but don't count on my not getting word to the city lord about your plan to have him slain. And now she's starting to panic. She's like, you must not. You cannot. He goes, that's something you'll still be wondering about, woman. When I've left the dust of this accursed city far behind me. And Conan, and we get the descriptive text, and it says, Conan knows though Orm of Hadamar does not, that he will not betray her to Pavditar. But if the uncertainty causes her hours, even days of fear and torment, she has earned it well. As for the Cimmerian, with the seal of safe conduct in hand, he heads out for the city walls and beyond. Surely there is ample room for more war chiefs than merely this barber amid the Afghuli hillmen. He tosses away all thoughts of revenge like dead flowers, being beckoned onward, ever onward, by the promise of golden gain. So Conan discovers the plot against him and foils it and is on his way to his next adventure. So a really fun little story. Conan, of course, getting in trouble with two of the things that get him in trouble a lot: women and drink, and but finding his way out of it through his pure strong will and constitution, right? And turning the tables on those who are plotting against him and trying to use him in a political plot to overthrow the city lord there and take over the region and then spread their influence outward. So a lot going on in a little short story, with our main man Conan coming out on top in the end. A fun tale, a good tale. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this story, and hopefully it's one that'll be watched by quite a few people, so it's not lost in the annals of time and comic book history. The whole point of me doing this show is to keep stories alive that I think are fun, that people may not have ever heard of before, and it's just a blast to share these stories with you for the niche group of you that get something out of them. I love doing it. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, keep it casual.